Love beyond the gates. The house with too many rules. The mansion sat on top of the hill like a king on a throne. Glass walls. Marble floors. Gold lights that never turned off. Inside lived Robert Kingston, a billionaire known across Chicago as a man who built his empire from nothing. Cold in business. Even colder at home. And inside that same mansion lived his only son, Jaden Kingston. Jaden had everything money could buy. But he didn't have peace. Jaden stood at the balcony one evening, watching the city lights flicker like broken stars. Below, in the backyard, the staff moved quietly, cleaning, trimming, preparing dinner. That was when he saw her. She knelt near the flower bed, her sleeves rolled up, hair tied back in a scarf. Sweat lined her forehead, but she was smiling as she worked. Maya Brooks. The housekeeper. Not just any housekeeper, the newest one. Quiet. Respectful. And Jaden felt the strange pull in his chest again. "Why does she make me feel like this?" he whispered. Behind him, his father's cold voice cut through the air. "You're staring again." Jaden turned. "I was just—" "You are a Kingston," Robert said sharply. "You do not stare at servants." Jaden clenched his jaw but said nothing. From that moment on, he knew one thing. His heart had chosen someone his world would never accept. Jaden started finding excuses to be around Maya. Sometimes it was, "Can you help me carry this to the garage?" Other times, "My room wasn't cleaned today." Each time, Maya answered with respect. "Yes, sir." "No, sir." "Of course, sir." But her eyes never held fear, only calm. One night, Jaden found her alone in the laundry room. "You don't have to call me sir," he said softly. She froze. "Your father pays my salary." "I pay nothing," Jaden said. "I just want to talk." She hesitated. "I didn't come here to talk, Mr. Jaden. I came to work." That honesty struck something deep in him. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Slowly, they began to laugh together. Talk about dreams. Pain. Life. One rainy night when thunder shook the mansion, Maya whispered something through tears. "I take care of my sick mother with this job. If I lose it, we lose everything." Jaden held her hands tightly. "You won't lose anything. I promise." And that was the moment their hearts crossed a line neither could undo. Love never hides forever. Robert Kingston noticed the change in his son. The smiles. The secret calls. The late returns. Then one night, he saw them. Jaden and Maya standing too close in the hallway. Hands touching. Eyes locked. Robert's voice thundered. "What is this?" Maya dropped Jaden's hand instantly. "I can explain," Jaden said. Robert slapped the wall in rage. "She is a servant. She is a human being." Jaden shouted back. The room went silent. Robert pointed toward the front door. "Get that girl out of my house before sunrise." Maya collapsed to her knees, crying. Jaden stepped in front of her. "If she goes, I go." Robert laughed bitterly. "You won't survive 1 month without my money." Jaden looked him dead in the eyes. "Then I'll starve with the woman I love." Robert turned his back. But what none of them knew. A secret from the past was already moving toward the mansion. And when it arrived, everything would change. Maya was escorted out of the mansion before sunrise. No goodbyes. No second chances. Jaden stood at the gate watching the car take her away. His chest felt hollow. For the first time in his life, money meant nothing. Robert stood behind him with folded arms. "You'll thank me one day," he said coldly. "That girl was a mistake." Jaden turned slowly. "No, father," he said with pain in his eyes. "Pushing her away is the biggest mistake you've ever made." That same morning, Jaden packed 2 bags. The guards tried to stop him. He walked out anyway. For the first time in his life, The billionaire's son slept on a cheap mattress in a one-room apartment on the south side of Chicago. No security. No luxury. No comfort. Only love. Across town, Maya cried into her mother's arms. "I lost everything because I loved the wrong man," she whispered. Her mother held her gently. "No, my daughter," she said. "Sometimes love shakes your life before it blesses it." Neither of them knew tragedy was coming. 2 weeks later, Robert Kingston sat in the back seat of his luxury car, checking stock reports on his tablet. The driver sped through traffic as usual. Then, a truck ran the red light. The impact was violent. Glass exploded. Metal screamed. The world flipped. When Robert woke up, he was in a hospital bed. His heart had stopped once. His kidneys were failing. His blood type was rare. The doctor spoke quietly to the family lawyers. "He needs an immediate blood and organ match, or he won't last 72 hours. Tests were run on distant relatives. No match. Board members gathered outside the ICU whispering about who would inherit the empire. Robert's enemies smiled quietly. Meanwhile, across the city, Jaden felt a strange ache in his chest at the exact moment his father's heart failed. At the same hospital, Maya rushed in with her sick mother. Her mother had collapsed due to stress and weak lungs. Doctors drew Maya's blood for routine tests. Minutes later, a nurse rushed out in shock. "This blood type matches the billionaire in ICU." The room froze. Maya stared in disbelief. The billionaire. Robert Kingston. "Yes," the nurse said. "You are the only exact match we have found in 2 days." Her legs weakened. That's Jaden's father." The doctor stepped forward urgently. "If you don't donate, he will die within hours." Maya remembered Robert's eyes the night he threw her out. The insults. The humiliation. The pain. Tears rolled down her face. "Even after what he did to me, I still don't want his son to lose a father." Without hesitation, she said, "I'll do it." When Jaden arrived at the hospital and heard the truth, he fell to his knees. "Maya, you're saving the man who destroyed us." She held his face. "No, I'm saving the man who gave birth to the man I love." And that sacrifice would shatter Robert's pride forever. The operating room lights were blinding. Machines beeped steadily as doctors moved quickly around Robert Kingston's lifeless body. His chest rose and fell only because machines forced it to. Across the hallway, Maya lay on another bed, already prepared for donation. Jaden stood between both rooms, shaking. "One is my father," he whispered. "The other is the woman I love." The doctor approached him. "We are beginning the procedure now. It is risky for both of them." Jaden held Maya's hand tightly. "You don't have to do this," he said again, his voice breaking. She smiled weakly. "I already chose when I fell in love with you." Tears dropped onto her hand. The doors closed. For 6 hours, the city's most powerful billionaire hovered between life and death because of the heartbeat of a woman he once called a servant. Outside, Robert's business partners waited coldly. Inside, Jaden prayed for the first time in years. Robert woke up slowly. His eyes felt heavy. His body felt weak. For the first time in his life, he couldn't move without pain. The doctor leaned over him. "Mr. Kingston, your surgery was successful. You survived only because a young woman donated her blood and organ immediately." Robert swallowed slowly. Who was the donor?" The doctor hesitated. "It was your former housekeeper." Silence filled the room. Robert's eyes widened in shock. "Maya?" he whispered. "Yes," the doctor said. "She saved your life." For the first time in decades, Robert Kingston cried. Not from pain. From shame. Later that day, Jaden entered the room. Father and son stared at each other for a long moment. Robert's voice broke. "You left because of her." Jaden nodded. "And now," Robert whispered, "she saved my life." Jaden said quietly. She saved your body. But what will you do about your heart? Those words pierced deeper than any knife. 3 days later, Maya was still unconscious. Her mother sat beside her bed, praying silently. Robert arrived in a wheelchair, escorted by guards and nurses. He dismissed everyone. It was just him and the old woman. He spoke gently for the first time. Thank you for raising a daughter brave enough to save the life of a man who hurt her. The old woman looked at him. You still don't recognize me, do you? Robert frowned. She slowly reached into her bag and pulled out an old photo. A young Robert. A beautiful young woman beside him. And a little baby girl in her arms. Robert's hands began to shake. That woman was the love of my youth, he whispered. She disappeared after I chose money over her. The old woman nodded slowly. She was my sister. Robert's breath caught. And this girl, Maya? She is your daughter. The room spun. Robert Kingston, the proud billionaire, had almost killed his own daughter with his pride. He fell from the wheelchair onto the floor. My God, he cried. I rejected my own blood. And at that exact moment, Maya's heart monitor suddenly began to beep loudly. The heart monitor beeped louder. Maya's fingers twitched. Her eyelids slowly opened. Soft hospital light met her tired eyes. Her mother screamed with joy. Maya, my baby. Nurses rushed in. Doctors followed. Jaden burst into the room and dropped to his knees beside her bed. You're awake, he whispered through tears. She smiled weakly. You look terrible. He laughed and cried at the same time. You almost died for my father. Maya turned her head slightly. Then her eyes met another face in the room. Robert Kingston. Their eyes locked. The room went silent. Robert trembled on his feet. He took one slow step forward. Maya. His voice broke. My daughter. Her brow furrowed in confusion. My what? Her mother began to cry softly. Robert collapsed beside the bed. I didn't know, he whispered. Your mother was the love of my youth. I chose wealth. I abandoned her without knowing she was pregnant. Maya stared at him in disbelief. You threw me out like trash, she said faintly. And now you say you're my father? Robert bowed his head. I sinned against you before I ever met you. Tears rolled down Maya's face. All the pain. All the rejection. All the confusion. Jaden's hands shook. The woman I fell in love with is my sister? The room froze in horror. The doctor stepped in quickly. No, he said carefully. There was no genetic connection between Jaden and Maya. Mr. Kingston is not Jaden's biological father. Everyone turned to Robert in shock. He looked at Jaden slowly. I adopted you as a baby, he admitted. I never told you. I loved you as my own. Jaden collapsed onto the chair, overwhelmed. So they were not siblings. But now something else stood between them. Truth. That night, the hospital was quiet. Rain tapped softly against the window. Robert returned alone to Maya's room. No guards. No pride. No billionaire mask. Just a broken father. He knelt beside her bed. I rejected you twice, he whispered. Once before you were born, and again when I threw you out of my house. Maya closed her eyes slowly. I didn't know my father, she said. But I imagined him kind, gentle, loving. Robert sobbed. I became everything your mother warned me not to be. Silence stretched between them. Then Maya whispered, I saved your life because of your son, not because of you. That cut deep. But then she added quietly, but now, I forgive you as my father. Robert gasped. Tears fell freely. He took her weak hand and kissed it. I don't deserve the title, but thank you for giving me another chance. For the first time in his life, Robert Kingston slept in peace. 2 weeks later, a press conference shook Chicago. The media gathered. Business leaders attended. Rumors filled the air. Jaden stood beside Maya. Robert sat in front of the microphones. The world expected stock updates. Instead, he said, "I rejected the woman my son loved, because I thought she was beneath us." Cameras flashed. "The truth is, she is my daughter." Gasps filled the room. "She saved my life after I destroyed her heart," he continued. Robert turned to Maya and Jaden. "Today, I step down from the throne of pride." Then, before the eyes of the entire world, the billionaire stood up and bowed before the housekeeper he once threw out. Tears streamed down Jaden's face. Maya covered her mouth in shock. Robert lifted his trembling hands. "I give my blessing to your love." And just like that, he didn't just bless a marriage. He healed a broken destiny. The news spread like wildfire. The billionaire's daughter was his housekeeper. The son fell in love with his father's long-lost child. Forbidden love that almost ended in death. Social media exploded. Some people celebrated the miracle. Others mocked it. At a private board meeting, angry investors slammed the table. "This story is bad for the brand. You bowed like a servant in public. You disgraced the Kingston name." Robert listened quietly. Then he rose slowly. "I disgraced nothing," he said. "For the first time, I honored truth." That same week, danger returned. A rival businessman, Victor Hale, saw an opening. If Kingston fell in love with emotions, his empire could fall with him. Victor ordered a silent attack. Not with guns, but with lies. False documents appeared online showing Maya as a fraud. Fake medical reports. Fake criminal history. Fake identity claims. The media turned again. Jaden punched the wall in rage. "They're trying to destroy her." Maya trembled. "Maybe I should walk away to protect you all." Jaden held her face firmly. "No. We didn't survive death to lose to lies." Robert stood behind them. "This time, my daughter will not fight alone." The attack came faster than expected. One evening, after Maya's therapy session, her car never arrived home. The driver was found unconscious. The phone was crushed. The road was empty. Jaden screamed her name into the night. Robert froze in terror. "I already lost her once," he said in horror. "I will not lose her again." Victor's message arrived 1 hour later. "Withdraw from the next corporate merger, or your daughter disappears forever." Robert's hands shook. Jaden grabbed his jacket. "I don't care about money. I'm going for her." "You'll die," Robert said. "Then I'll die loving her," Jaden replied. Father and son stormed into the darkness together. For the first time in their lives, they were fighting not for wealth, but for love. Maya was tied to a chair in a dark warehouse. Her lip was bleeding. Her hands were numb. Her heart was racing. Victor stood in front of her. "Your life is more expensive than diamonds," he said coldly. She lifted her head weakly. "My father won't bow to criminals." Victor laughed. "Oh, he already bowed once." Just then, the warehouse doors exploded open. Police flooded in. Lights blinded the room. Shouts filled the air. Victor turned to run, but Jaden tackled him to the ground. Robert ran straight to Maya and pulled her into his arms. "I'm here," he whispered. "My daughter. I'm here." Maya collapsed against him. For the first time, she truly felt what it meant to have a father. Victor was arrested. The lies were exposed. The enemies were silenced. And Chicago learned one final truth. You don't threaten a man who has learned how to love. The wedding of the year took place on a bright Saturday morning. Not inside a mansion. Not inside a palace. But in an open-glass cathedral overlooking the Chicago skyline. The city gathered. Celebrities, business moguls, former staff, neighbors, strangers who had followed the story from pain to miracle. Jaden stood at the altar, dressed in a simple black tuxedo. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from gratitude. Then the music changed. The doors opened. Maya stepped in. She wore a white dress that shimmered softly in the sunlight. No diamonds. No excess. Just beauty. The crowd stood. Tears filled every eye. And beside her walked Robert Kingston, not as a billionaire, not as a king of finance, but as a father. His steps were slow. His head was bowed in humility. His hands trembled as he held his daughter's arm. Jaden broke into tears. When they reached the altar, Robert placed Maya's hand into Jaden's. His voice shook as he spoke. "Son, take care of my daughter better than I took care of her mother." Jaden nodded through tears. "I will protect her with my life." Robert stepped back, and the past finally loosened its grip. The pastor smiled gently. "Jaden and Maya, you have survived hatred, pride, secrets, enemies, and even death. Speak now from your hearts." Jaden took Maya's hands. "I was born into wealth but raised in loneliness," he said. "You were born into struggle but raised in strength. When I met you, I learned that love is not money. Love is sacrifice." Maya smiled through tears. "I cleaned your father's house, but you cleaned my broken heart," she said softly. "They tried to tear us apart with pride, but God stitched us back together with truth." Jaden slipped the ring on her finger. Maya placed the ring on his. The pastor lifted his hands. "By the power of love, truth, and forgiveness, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The crowd erupted. Applause, shouts, tears, joy. Jaden kissed Maya gently. Robert watched with trembling lips. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel rich. He felt complete. 1 year later, Maya opened a charity foundation for single mothers and houseworkers. Jaden left his father's empire and built a technology company that employed youth from poor neighborhoods. Robert sold half of his company and built free hospitals across the state. One evening, the three of them sat together on a balcony. No guards, no titles, no walls, just family. Robert turned to Jaden. "You made me a better man by loving her." Then he turned to Maya. "You saved my life twice, with your blood and with your forgiveness." Maya smiled. "I didn't save you, Father. Love did." Robert nodded slowly, and for the first time in his powerful life, the billionaire bowed his head in peace.